Thank you very much, and thank you to the participants for selecting online audio training for your professional development and talent needs. The topic that we're going to talk about today is a very important one for anyone who manages people in any capacity at any supervisory level, as well as for HR professionals. We have a lot to cover. I also want to point out up front that this is a very complex topic. This is really an introduction to the high level of knowledge that people who interact with employees on behalf of their organizations need to have in order to prevent equal employment opportunity compliance problems from happening, to recognize them when they do happen, and to take steps to diminish or reduce the likelihood of experiencing a problem should something come up. Now, with all that said, it's very important to realize that when we talk about equal employment opportunity compliance, we're not just talking about hiring. A very common misperception seems to be that the focus for people who at least are involved in the hiring process needs to be on taking steps to make sure we don't ask these questions that people tend to call illegal interview questions. And while it is true that there are things that we should not ask when we are interviewing people to come to work for our company, the reason for that is that there are certain topics that we can't use to make employment decisions. And it's dangerous for us to come into that kind of knowledge, and there's certainly many topics that are off limits to ask about, and even if people start talking about it on their own, we should steer the conversation in another direction. But the hiring process isn't the end-all and be-all when it comes to equal employment opportunity. Chances are that your organization has a harassment prevention policy. If you don't, you have an issue that needs to be addressed kind of above and beyond what we're focusing on today, because it is very important for every organization to have and follow an anti-harassment policy, and that includes sexual harassment as well as other types of legally defined workplace harassment, and then any other behavioral standards that the company may want to hold its employees to. But this is all associated because the landscape of equal employment opportunity is tied to the numerous anti-discrimination and anti-harassment laws, federal laws that are on the books in the United States, as well as state-specific laws. In addition to that, every state has to follow federal law as a minimum standard. Any state can also put additional laws and regulations in place that hold employers doing business in those states to a higher standard. But regardless of the different law, or whether it's federal or whether it's state, if it's a civil rights or anti-discrimination law, it is designed to prohibit all types of employment-related or workplace discrimination or harassment, because harassment by definition is actually a specialized type of discrimination, as well as retaliation. And this applies with regards to all terms and conditions of employment. Yes, hiring is important, but everything else associated with an employment-related term or condition is also important. So we cannot discriminate or harass or retaliate against people, and I'll go into a little more detail about what legally defined retaliation is with regards to anything: who we hire, who is fired, why someone is fired, how much people are paid, status changes such as promotions or demotions, access to training, and these are just a few of the more common illustrations of what a term and condition of employment looks like. By no means is this an all-inclusive list, but the point that I want to make is that equal employment opportunity compliance does apply across the board to all terms and conditions of employment. There are a lot of things that managers and HR professionals need to know with regards to equal employment opportunity compliance. And there's some foundational knowledge that specialized information needs to be built on. First of all, it's important to know that legally defined discrimination and harassment involve differential treatment on the basis of